Hi, good morning. This is Anna Imagination with a Healing Garden, and welcome to Shifting Perspectives. So, I had a wonderful day yesterday. It was one of those days where I was out on the field. That's what I'm going to call this. Is I was out on the field yesterday, where instead of sitting in front of a YouTube video, I decided to go out and okay, so I had a total sunshine and imagination adventure. My dad popped in and he was like, he's so fucking cool. He's awesome. And it immediately turned into us sitting here smoking weed. And then we went out to Manhattan and we just had a blast. And I played tour guide and it was like, oh my God, this is what I need to do for the rest of my life is just give people tours of the city while teaching them how to live authentically, which I do, which I launched that yesterday, 2 days ago. And I'm actually talking to somebody now and I'm going to be doing it again. So with an actual like client, and I'm excited because it's he and his wife are coming to New York from London, and we've been talking about what he wants, what he's doing, and he started asking about what it is I do, and I was able to just give him just to show him, and it's just and he's like, okay, I really want this, and I'm like, oh yeah, it's awesome, and all it is learning how to live authentically. So the terminology, and this is it, is people, we hear the words authentic, but we don't quite know what it means. And I was thinking about this morning. I was laying in bed and I was like, I don't think anyone ever actually defines authentic. What does that even mean? So I want to take a minute and really just sit with the word authentic for a minute, because this is what it keeps coming back to, the God self. And it's so very, very important. So I'm going to look up the word authentic and genuine, genuine, real, true. And real is it's really, it's authenticity is when you are so true to who you are that there are no masks. And that's it. Everyone knows we wear masks. Everyone knows we wear hats when we go outside. And we put on whatever mask or whatever social expectation. That's it. We have social expectations that we trade in and out of every day, every time we go anywhere. When you go to do a job interview, you have a social expectation. So you put on the right clothes, the right clothes. No, we're not going to use right or wrong. And that's it. Is right means you've met expectations. Wrong means you don't meet expectations. That is really what right and wrong means. And whenever someone says, well, that's not right, no, it means that you have not met their expectations. Perspective. So there's right, there's wrong, and then there's authentic. There's right, there's wrong, and genuine. That's what this is. Right, wrong, or genuine. Those are your choices. You can be right as in meeting the expectations of others. You can be wrong as in not meeting the expectations of others, or you can be you. You can be real. You can be genuine. Now, in the truest form of being genuine, that is where authenticity lies. But how genuine, at what degree does this go? How deep does this go? That was the question that I asked, is how deep does genuinity, how deep does authenticity go? And we think it's just, well, I'm going to show up without anyone expecting anything of me. So we show up to a party and we decide to just wear clothes that we want without thinking about what others think of us. But when you're a nudist, you're still conforming. When you are in an event where you're making sure you fit in precisely so that you're not an outcast, now you're meeting the expectations of everybody in the room. You are assessing the situation and you are conforming so that you fit in. And every time you fit in, it's literally a turmoil battle between what is right, what everyone expects of you, and your own authentic self. And the problem that you run into is you no longer live who you are. You're living by what everyone else says you have to be because you want to fit in. And it's literally this war we live every day, wherever we go, where it's this conflict of, oh, who do I have to be today? And we never save space or time for ourselves unless we're alone. And then you've got people who are afraid of being alone. A lot of people are terrified of being alone because they don't know how to self-comfort. They have used people for prosthetics so much that they can't be alone. If you have a problem with being alone, really being alone, it's because you have people that you are using for prosthetics. And you can't be without your prosthetic because then you don't know what you'll be without them. So you avoid being alone. It's why people listen to the radio constantly, or they always have the TV going. They, God forbid, they be alone with their thoughts. Because being alone with your thoughts, being alone in silence, is actually being alone with your authenticity. And if you don't know who you are, that is fucking terrifying. Absolutely. So we get these expectations. We are trained to read these expectations on such a level that they're instinctive for us, that they are so subconsciously embedded that when we go to school, we know what to wear. We know how to have our hair. We know what we should and shouldn't do when we buy shoes. There is this one story I remember hearing about a man with socks. He wore these socks and everyone picked on him at school about his socks. So he went out, he told his mom, I got to have these type of socks. So his mom went out, bought brand new socks. He got the socks that everyone said he should have, went back to school, and everyone picked on him about his socks. And he said, I quit. And he was spending all of that time and energy focusing on his socks, trying to find the right expectation to fit in. And what he was doing the entire time was just ripping apart himself and not being authentic, not living true to his truth, his own perspective. And this is this expectation we all have, this societal norm of there is the societal expectation, what is right, the societal expectation. And then there is everybody else. And everybody else who does not meet the societal expectation is labeled wrong, black sheep, cast away, thrown out, rejected, unwanted, because they don't fit the conditions in which we are to live. This is conditional love, conditional belonging, conditional living at its core. It's because you weren't right. But if you decide to just throw all that away for a minute, and when you say, you know what, you're giving me a two-party system, you're giving me right and wrong, you're telling me societal expectations, or you are not wanted here. Well, what if I just say, fuck you all, and I'll just do what I want? Now you're getting into authentic living. But at what degree will you take that? Now, the ultimate degree of authenticity is the God self. That is that part of you that is so solid on who you are that you embrace what I like to call your true magic. And this is where identity and authenticity come out in such magnificent power that fear just rolls off of you. Manifestation just comes to you. Gratitude is in the palm of your hand. You live so true to who you are that if you want to burst into song and dance and just move about wherever you are in your own song and story, and you do it with a confidence where you know you will be accepted no matter what, now you've reached the God self. But the God self is an unknown. Oh my God, is it an unknown? We have no idea what the God self is. We're told all these societal expectations. You have to be righteous. You have to be humble. You have to keep that arrogance in check. You have to make sure. So there's all these ethics that are also part of that societal expectation. So yeah, we might decide to wear clothes that we want, but how are your ethics doing? What about your ethics? And that's the problem, is people think societal expectations is just what you wear, what you say, how you act. And it's not. It is all about what your ethics are. But instead, we've got all these limited beliefs, all of these ethics inside of our head that are sitting there telling us, this is the ethic that's right. This is the ethic that's wrong. This is the ethic that should be. This is the one that leads you into being a bad person. And we have this massive, again, black and white, right, wrong, good person, bad person. And as soon as you get into that, you're right back to the societal expectations. Good and bad is a societal expectation. It's not an ethic. And this is the beautiful thing. An ethic is personal. An ethic is very personal. So when you're sitting there with your ethic and you are solid and it's personal, and then you have someone coming along telling you what should or shouldn't be. Every time you hear the word should, it is because someone is telling you what your ethic should or shouldn't be. They're giving you societal expectations. And as soon as you hear that word, we are programmed to go, oh, let me question the self. Let me fall back on the societal norm so I have a place to belong because it's conditional belonging here. So this is where I throw all of that away. I'm going to shove it all aside. And I'm going to say, all right, I'm going to present to you with something different. I mean, fuck different, okay? This different is there's no societal expectations here, which means everything you have in your head, all these checklists, all these societal behaviors that are embedded so deep, you worrying about which shoes you should wear, which socks you should buy, which clothes you should wear, that's gone. But that's level one. Let's go deeper. How about what behaviors you do, what you should or shouldn't do with your behaviors? How much is a societal expectation? Getting a 9-to-5 job is a societal expectation. And we are all tuned in to our God self. And because we're tuned into our God self, we can feel it. So we have this feeling that's telling us to go here, but societal expectation says, no, you got to be here. Now, for some of us, it's really loud. And for some of us, it's almost dead to non-existent. The ones where it's dead to non-existent, they live in the system very happily. I don't think they're happy. I think they just aren't in enough pain to do anything about it. But for others, for my people, these are the people who suffer because they live under the societal expectations that have no business being a part of their life, because they are so tuned into their own vibrational frequency, which is your God self. At its purest form, it's just your song, your frequency. And when you tune into that, you find who you are. But we are talking about, first, you have to have psychological safety. That's the first thing. You have to have psychological safety. If you do not feel psychologically safe, you're not even going to sample this, which is what the Healing Garden does. It gives you a place where you are psychologically safe to explore this. So you can figure out and unlock your God self in a safe, non-judgmental place. We start right off by saying to you, welcome, this is the door, you belong here. No conditions. There are no conditions at all in this space. None at all. You can say what you want, believe what you want. You can share your perspective, and I'll read your perspective. Everybody will read your perspective, and they will just observe your perspective without internalizing your perspective, without projecting theirs onto you. No, in this space, we're just going to observe the perspectives of others and go, wow, look at that. That's so interesting. Like it's a different kind of tree. And that's it. No expectations. So once you get past that first layer of what's on the surface of expectations, and you start to dig down deeper, you look at your ethics, your beliefs. Are you believing in the God you're believing because somebody expects you to? Oh my God, that is common. So many people believe the faith they believe because their parents expect them to. Because if you don't believe in the same God as your parents, oh, you're done. The whole movie, the whole musical, Fiddler on the Roof, that is what that was about. It was about children no longer complying to the societal expectation of their parents. Each child at a different degree of rejecting the parent's perspective and the parent responding accordingly. First one, okay, you're not going to do what I want from my tradition. I will meet you halfway and say this. Second child, okay, fine. You're not going to meet this expectation. All right, I'll meet you here. Third child, you're out. What you did was unforgivable. Get out. And he disowns his daughter because she did not live to the conditions. And we all live with that expectation. What is the one thing you know is your parents' breaking point? Can any of us say, oh, my parents didn't have a breaking point? Can you? My parents had a breaking point. I had to be a Republican. I had to be a conformist. I had to be a housewife and a Christian woman. That is my parents' expectations on me. Oh, it did not go well. So there were their conditions. That was their breaking point. And I remember when I was 15, my brother did this also. In our family, we had this massive face-off where we finally started to say to our parents, I don't believe in your religion. And oh my God, the backlash we got. Every parent has a breaking point. If you live with societal conditions, your parents have breaking points where you say, this is as far as you can push me, but anything beyond this point, and you will lose your belonging. You can find another place to live. Someone else can pay your bills. God forbid you actually be resourceful. No, we're not going to teach you that because I own you based on what you believe. And that's the mentality of societal expectation. So when you decide, I'm going to pursue authentic living, a lot of us have no idea what it is we are really walking into. What you are really doing when you decide to heal is you are deciding to remember who you are. It is a remembering. That's all it is. You are looking to remember who you are and understand what happened. That is literally the formula for healing. Your brain is stuck in processing because you don't understand. So it's replaying all of the trauma and all of the events, trying to understand. But you don't have the words for what happened because this isn't talked about. What happened was somebody had a societal expectation on you, and it was at the expense of your God self. So you chose belonging, conditional belonging, over your authentic self. And then when you finally get to the stage where you're healing, you have to remember who you are. That's what the self-care regimen is designed to do in the healing garden, is literally revive and help you remember your God self. That is all it is, remembering the God self. While my subconscious triadic healing classes, these YouTube channels and what's on my website, literally teaches you what happened so you can understand what did happen to you, so you can process it. So you can, oh, there's the understanding. Remembering and understanding. That's all healing is. You are remembering and you are understanding. So you can release the processing. You can shut it down. You can go on with your life. You can get over it. You can move on. And you can also internalize who you are and live up to that. But how deep are you wanting to go with that? Now, some people are fine with just, I want to heal to the point where I'm just here. I want to go to stage 5. I want to own my own business. Other people will be like, no, I want to go on to stage 6. And then you get to stage 6 and you realize how painful it is. And you just want to get on to stage 7 because, well, stage 6 sucks. And then when you get into stage 7, you start to realize that there's so much more out there. And that's when you begin the God self. Stage 7 is when you start that. And the God self is just living purely and completely for you, completely on whim. It's literally whimsical lifestyles. And it's, what do you want to do? It's really, truly the question, what do you want to do? It's making a choice every single day, not because you have to pay bills, not because your children need you, but because what do you want to do? And we have all of these societal conditioning and expectations on us where we're going, oh, well, I have to have money. I have to. Actually, you don't. And there's an entire way around that. And that's societal expectations. And I teach that. Once you understand resourcefulness and once you realize who you are, when you have resourcefulness that combines with the whim and it combines with the God self, you can literally create any business you want and it will sell. Because people buy authenticity, but no one is authentic these days. So you have all these companies to buy from that aren't authentic at all. They're just looking to grab your money. Whereas when you really sit back and you gravitate towards a certain business, you realize it's because, like a small mom and pop shop is a God self running a shop. It's them saying, this is my dream, this is what I want, and they do it. This is why mom and pop shops are so warm and cozy. It's because you are stepping into the God self, the identity of another person. One of my favorite shops upstate is called Fat Cat Comics. That's the name of the store. Fat Cat Comics was a nerd shop that sold comic books, D&D supplies, cards, Magic the Gathering. And I went into the shop one time and they had a cat. Cats were all over the place, including the cat itself, the fat cat. And they explained that this was the third fat cat, that it was her dream when, like 30, 40 years ago, to own a comic book store in the 60s. Okay, so I'm aging myself. I'm saying 40 years ago was the 1960s. That's embarrassing. Okay, so let me grow up here a little bit. So 80 years ago, she opened up this shop called Fat Cats back in the 60s. And they've had cats live and die, and they just kept replacing the cat. And the logo was this cat. And this woman just wanted to do this. And it became the logo. It became this part of this culture at this mom and pop shop. And it very much was just resonating this woman's personality. The whole place just dripped with it. I'll go into a floral shop and I'll find same thing. It's a person who decided to build this little small business. And it's just a full shrine. This is what a business is. It's a shrine to your God self. And that's what it is. And there are so many different layers. So when you manifest, you're actually tapping into that authentic energy. And it's just this bringing it out of you and understanding how raw and authentic, how much of these societal expectations do you want to live without? Now, some people, a lot of people are like, I want them all gone. I want to know who I am. We do that for you. That's part of the healing garden. And once you decide how far you want to go, how much you want to cut out of you, how much you want to completely just drop and shed. And this is the beautiful thing is when you get to that point where you start to just strip off all of these societal expectations and you start to get a taste of authenticity, you become obsessed with it. You become addicted. You can't get enough because it's you. You become addicted to your own self. And it's such a great feeling because you suddenly become, it's an agenda you develop inside of you where you go, my new agenda is true, authentic living to the point of achieving God's self. And it's when you realize your power, which is why I call it the God self, is because it comes with a power. It comes with a magic that is absolutely unique to you. And your magic is your resourcefulness. It's what are your resources? This is the real, true, solid. When in the second stage of growth, it's all about learning resourcefulness. This is what we should be learning from the provider in our family. The provider in our family is supposed to be teaching us how to be resourceful, how to use our own skills to create from nothing except the self. That is what the provider should be teaching us. But many of them fail at this. So we end up growing up without knowing our resources, without being able to find and identify our resources, and without knowing how to take our resources and use them and turn them into something. So when you sit down and you write a resume, this is such a great example. When you sit down to write a resume, there is, what should you put on the resume that's going to get you the job? Well, that is societal expectations. That is you conforming your resume to meet the societal expectations of someone else. But the other resume is, this is everything I am and all that I do and all that I can be. And then you write your own resume for you. Do this exercise. This is homework. Do this. Oh my God. Where you fill out a resume that is just all you. You aren't trying to sell yourself to anybody except yourself. Write down all of your skills. Write down all of your experiences. Write down all of your hobbies. Write down everything you can do that you love doing, that you are good at. And if it's knitting, if it's cooking, add it. And when you're done, that resume is your God self. Those are your resources. That is who you are. The next stage is learning. And this is a skill that you have to learn in order to do this. It's not something that you just know how to do. It's a skill that is practiced and learned, is taking all of those skills, taking all of those resources that you have inside of you and finding a job or a career that utilizes as many of them as possible. Now, what this resume really is a list of everything you love, a list of all of your interests. It is your identity. It is your God self. So when you look at this crazy ass collection of things, don't think about what 9-to-5 job will this fit. Don't do that. Do the opposite of that. If you could pull from everything that you've got on that list, on that resume, not just your experience, but your skills that you picked up, and you were to go through and circle your favorite ones, your top 5 favorite ones, and then I'm going to have you do 10 favorites and then top 15 favorites. Start with the top 5 favorites that you have, the ones that you absolutely not negotiable, you have got to do. And if you don't, you are not going to be happy For me, it's event planning. Oh my God, I have to do events. I have to be an executive producer. That is what I do. That is my happy place. And I have to talk, I have to present and teach in this format. So there's my two primary topics. I'm just going to use this as an example. So when I sat down then and I built my business, every single time I built every one of my businesses, I did the same thing. I looked at those top 5 skills and I went, how can I utilize those skills into this? And this is where it takes time. This is where you build a business from the dream down and you start piecing it all together. And then you realize that, oh, well, I'm doing this over here because societal expectation says I have to do it. But this isn't true to me. This is not reflecting of this. Does it feel right? Does it feel good? Does it give you joy? If it doesn't, it's gone. It should not be there because now that's work. The difference between work and play is work means doing something without pleasure. Play means doing something with pleasure. A job is work because there's no pleasure. That's why everyone hates their job. That's when you get yourself a career and you go, a career is when you enjoy it. It's a career and you enjoy it because it's play. It is an absolute slow death and a torture to do something that you hate doing without pleasure every single day. And everyone feels it every time they get in their car and they're driving to their shit-ass job that they hate doing, but they got to pay the bills. That's not freedom. That is slavery. That is not authentic living. That is destroying the God self. There is a way around it. When you tap into this really unique, crazy business that you're building now, and you take that God self and you put your God self, those 5 top skills right into your business, you are going to come up with something so weird and so unique and so extraordinary that people will be like, wow, what is this weird fucking thing in front of me? And that's exactly what the garden is. People look at it and they're like, oh my God, it's because I created this weird thing out of my 15 top mandatory. I have to do this. And this is what I want to do. And boom, you have the garden. It's weird and it's different and it's awesome. It's really out there, but it's awesome. And it's the unique authenticity, the realness that attracts people. That is what attracts people, is the authenticity. It's the God self, because we are so starved for our own God self that when we seek God self, we are drawn to it. So when you tap into your God self energy and you bring it out in a dream and in your passions and your skills, and you merge those into this conglomerate of your business, oh my God, will people come? Because it is so unique and so different. And I remember this one place, I can't even call it a store. It's a place in East Village. It is the best thing in the world. It's called Pinky's. It's called Pinky's. It's on my Instagram, weird shit I see in New York. It is fucking weird. It's a restaurant, I think, and a shop, I think. And there's mannequins and art all over the place. It's like having dinner in a living MoMA exhibit. And it's fucking weird. But the whole thing is made out of mannequins and paint. And it feels like you sat down in a 5-year-old's art craft shop. And you eat dinner here. And I told my partner, first of all, we're going to eat here one day. And there's one of 2 rules. We have to show up in a tuxedo and a ball gown and have the most refined, beautiful dinner. Or we have to show up as a pimp and a sex worker and have dinner here. So those are the choices. And he said, both. I said, okay, we'll eat here twice. So we are going to go to this weird ass place in the East Village, first dressed in ball gown attire and a tuxedo. And by God, I'm going all out for this dinner. And I'm going to sit there in this gorgeous gown, him in a tuxedo, while we eat at this weird ass 5-year-old kid place. Then we're going to do it again as a pimp and a sex worker in costume. I am so excited. But that is the God self. That is the God self in its glory. And it's us taking our God selves. This is what we do, by the way. This is 100% my partners and mine energy, is we take our God selves and we deliberately find someone else's God self and we put ourselves in the middle of someone else's God self and we just combine all the God selves like, yes, welcome to authentic living, as a means to flout societal expectations, just because it's celebrating the God self. And people are attracted and so drawn to that energy. That's why everyone loves the East Village. That's why everyone loves the Village, is because it reeks and it drips of the God self. And when you find it in you, you don't let that go. You become obsessed with recovering more of it because you realize, oh my God, this thing is so precious. But to get it out of you, you've got to be alone with yourself. You have to be alone with yourself. You have to have conversations with your subconscious mind. You have to dig out all of that work because you have to unstick your processing, understand what happened to you, and then you have to remember who you are. The remembering is the hard part. Nothing else. It's not the shadow work that's hard. It's the remembering who you are. Because the more you remember who you are, the more you get closer to that God self. The closer you get to the God self, the more you realize one real hard truth. That the reason why you don't remember your God self is because it was that big and they had to abuse you that much to keep it suppressed. So when you're done and you live it all out and you've got your God self all over the place, and then you sit back and you compare where I was to where I am now, and that's when it hits you. Oh my God, they abused me this much. You think you were abused this much because you think I'm just going to go heal and boom, there, I'm recovered and I'm healed. This is a societal expectation. And you realize that when you get here and you just keep going and you keep going and you keep going. Well, I don't understand. When's this thing going to end? It ends at the God self. You're going to the God self. That's what healing is. There is an end. You're going to the God self. That's really what you're doing. It's like you have a little God inside of you. You have a big God inside of you. And this God literally is magic. That's what manifestation is. It's literally your magic. And it was as if parents were hiding and saying to children, don't let them know you're magical. Keep that inside of you. And the only way they could convince you to keep your magic contained was by wiping your memory so you don't remember who you are. But you're a God. You have a God self with magic and with power. You can. Oh my God, you can like you would not believe you can. And that's it. That is the limiting belief. You can't do that. You can't do that. You can't do that. You can't do that. You want to do that. You can't do that. And those you can'ts is just societal expectation compressing the God self until you're all the way over here. And you think, I'm going to go heal now. I'll just heal this much and I'll be done. And then you get here and you realize, oh, I'm not done. So you heal more. Oh, I'm still not done. And you're going, what the hell? When will this end? And then this is the part where people start to say, oh, it never ends. It's ongoing. No, you're only halfway through. When you get to the point where you think it's eternal, you're halfway there. And then you unlock this extra area of your psyche, of your intuition and your identity. And then you realize you step into the matrix, you can see the way the world is, and you think, wow, this is it. No, you're actually 1/3 of the way done. You only just remembered. Stage 6, stage 7, you just remembered. You finally remembered. Now you've got to learn how to use that power. Those are the next stage 6s, which is what the God self is. So you have your remembering, and then you have your training. And I don't know what's beyond that yet. I have some ideas, but that's what we're really doing here. So when you're ready to unlock your God self, when you're ready to do this, and there's people who they don't want to go all the way. They just want to heal this much. Yeah, that they're not ready. Because when you do heal, you will eventually get to that point where you have to choose between societal expectation and your authenticity. And A person will only ever heal as much as they feel comfortable. A person will only ever heal as much as they feel safe enough to do so. What's being threatened? What are you going to lose? Well, you're going to lose conditional belonging. You're going to lose conditional love, and you're going to lose conditional society. You're going to lose conditional living. And well, that's where the healing garden steps in and says, we're giving you psychological safety right off. And we're giving you all the tools you need in the right order you need them. We're giving you a map to show you this is where you're actually going. You are walking into the God self, but you got to remember first. And these are all the tools you need. And by the way, you can't learn this and be in the system at the same time. You can't. Because once you're out of the system and you start to see all the societal expectations, you then have to choose, boy, do I want to put on a mask and take on their social expectations, or do I want to be authentic? And you know, if you're authentic and you go into there, they'll beat you, they'll hurt you, because that's what they do. So then you have this conflict of, my daughter's here right now. She's authentically living, and then she goes to school and she's going, oh my God, I can see all the perspectives. Yes, you can see all the perspectives. That's right. And she's got all of these societal expectations, right down to make sure you have a yellow folder for the English class. And she's going, I can't do this. And I'm like, we're talking about homeschooling at this point. And it's that vast. It's that, like, at what point can you become, it's a priority. Do you prioritize your authenticity, or do you prioritize the comfort and familiarity of social expectations? And those are your choices. Those are your only choices. You have to figure out what your priorities are. Once you figure out your priorities, well, that's going to determine at what point you grow and decide to just sit. And that's fine. People are more into comfort sometimes than they are growing. Sometimes we need a break. Sometimes people just can't go on, and that's okay. So long as you're comfortable, okay. But some people value that growth. And if you value the growth, what you're really valuing is you are seeking that authentic self. You are seeking the God self. And there's people, I remember when I was there, where I dug going, I'm looking for something. What am I looking for? It was this unknown, unnamed thing that I was just being driven toward. And I'm there and I'm like, oh, I was looking for the God self. All right, I got the God self. I'm going to shelve that now. Now let's learn how to use the God self. And it's not about power. It is not about it's not about authority, and it's not about control over here. When you get to that point and you're finally ready to start training the God self, it's all about you becoming the best version of yourself. And you know, you can't do that until you master your own magic, mastering the magic. And that's what stages 7 to 12 are. It's mastering your own magic. And it is extraordinary. It's a beautiful process. But be realistic about what it is you're doing. Understand what it is you're really doing. You're not healing. That is such a horrible word for this. You are remembering, you are understanding, and then you are magic training. And that's what you are doing. But again, there's another societal expectation of, oh, you're using the word God self. How arrogant in a societal expectation. We do things differently over here. And while we're doing this, I show you how to build an authentic business from the ground down. That way you can self-sustain outside of the system. If you love shit like this, like, follow, subscribe, comment below. Let me know what part of the video resonated with you the most, and help the garden grow. Donate below. Thank you so much. And may the kindest of words always find you.